All right, it is top of the hour. I think, Paul, we should go ahead and get started.
Absolutely.
Okay, so welcome. If this is your first time joining us for a webinar, welcome. If this is not your first time, welcome back. As you might know, we like to begin our sessions with our shared purpose, which we invite everyone attending to just think and reflect on this. It helps us kind of shed the day or begin the day. And really, all it means is we continuously look to begin our day or end our day to improve ourselves, our organizations, and our world by connecting meaningful relationships to results. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and get started with our webinar. And want to mention first our upcoming events. Here we have some exciting things. So we're going to breeze through these really quickly, and then we're going to get to Paul's session. So we're pleased to welcome Blue Origin and the National Aeronautics and Space Administration at BRM Connect for the main stage this year. So these two incredible organizations are going to be sharing how their teams, their BRM teams, are leveraging the BRM capability to go further than humans have ever dreamed of. So join us as we hear from these storytellers at BRM Connect, and that is happening October 21st to the 23rd. That will also be virtual if you need virtual tickets. So just about BRM Connect, it is only 32 days away, so grab your conference pass today. We've added a hybrid conference option, as I mentioned earlier, and the energy is just inexplicable. It is everything that'll take you through the next year. It is the place to connect, to network, and also see some really great storyteller sessions. We'll be live streaming main stage sessions and offering storyteller sessions on demand with live Q&As. So if you've already registered to attend in person, you automatically have access to the BRM Connect app and on-demand events. So we can't wait to see you guys there. Next, we have there's going to be some clicking happening here. The community walkthrough is a member walkthrough that's going to be coming up. So here's an opportunity for you to check in, look at different times and dates where this is going to be dedicated to showing community members how to get the most out of their BRM Institute membership. So how to navigate the online campus, use and find resources, and highlight some great tools that you maybe you didn't know you had access to. So Director of Community, Miss Marlene Lamont, will be guiding you through this free and fun session and can help you answer questions around membership and community events. Lastly, with upcoming events, we have some upcoming classes. So if you're looking for further training, certifications, we have some upcoming courses at September 20th, October, November, and some more coming. We have some coming through BRM Connect as well and through December. So if you're looking for any training courses, join online, look at our calendar. And if you have any questions, maybe a date that you don't see listed there or you might be interested in, you can just info at us and we'll be responding to you. So enough with events and questions. If you do have any questions about those specifically, feel free to drop them in chat. We are going to go over some webinar etiquette just really quickly before I hand things over to Paul. So a few quick tips. Please mute. If you are not speaking, please turn your microphone off. We'll get some feedback every once in a while. You can turn your camera on if you like, especially when you're asking a question, but we may do cameras off if you're not asking a question just for bandwidth issues, just in case. We have a lot of people from across the world, and it usually helps the webinar run a little bit more smoothly until Q&A. Then you can turn your cameras back on. You may raise your hand if you have a question. However, we won't be answering questions until the end of the webinar. So if you want to keep your hand raised and it'll hold your place in line until the end, or you can just drop it in chat and we'll be going through questions that are dropped in chat. So this presentation will be recorded and posted in the BRM Institute online campus, and the deck will also be available. So with that, let me introduce you to our star, our ITIL guru that we have joining us here today. So I want to introduce you all to our guest speaker, Mr. Paul Wigsel, of whom I've had the pleasure of working with over the last year. Not only is he a wonderful human being full of limitless compassion, but his learned experiences as a manager, trainer, and consultant have shaped him into a powerhouse of a professional. He was one of the first few in the world to be awarded the ITIL 4 Managing Professional Qualification and is an ITIL expert and Prince 2 practitioner. He's traveled the world, helping and advising organizations in delivery of ITIL-based customer services and assist organizations with their customer engagement, account management, as well as how to deliver value that matters, not just for the organization, but for all stakeholders. If we could all please give a warm virtual applause to Mr. Paul Wigsell, and we'll be handing it over to him.
Thank you very much indeed, Sam. And being that I'm British, that's all very, very uncomfortable. But thank you very much indeed for your very, very kind words. And welcome, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night for some of you, because I appreciate some of you are right in the middle of the night. So thank you very much indeed for joining this webinar. We're going to be talking about the links between business relationship management and ITIL. Or actually, we're going to talk about the links between business relationship management and service management. And I just want to put that into context, because service management, if you like, is the subject matter, and then ITIL is the best practice that sits within that subject matter, in the same way as we talk about relationship management as the subject matter, but the BRM Institute has the best practice in relation to relationship management. So we're going to talk about the synergy between business relationship management and ITIL, and where and how they support one another. And how we're going to do that, we're going to do that through a couple of ways. We're going to start with a bit of an abstract introduction to how business relationship management and service management works. And then we're going to start to drill down into a little bit more minutiae and to see how it really supports one another. We're then going to get towards the end about showing how there's a greater depth of alignment before we can talk about any qualifications or certification that will enable you to understand both business relationship management and service management in greater depth. And then we'll open the floor, as long as I don't talk too long, to questions and discussions, because I appreciate you're all very busy people. You don't need to listen to this boring old bloke from the UK talking to you. So, as I say, thank you very much indeed for joining us. That's what we're going to talk about. Business relationship management and service management. But we'll start with that abstract introduction. What's this? Okay, now immediately, I'm sure some of you are saying, well, it's archery. Well, yes, it is archery. There's no argument to that. However, just to be really pedantic, it's actually Olympic archery. And that's the abstract bit, because we're going to keep talking about using the Olympics as our kind of analogy stroke metaphor, whichever is your interpretation of that word. And we're going to talk about what's the objectives of these archers. So the objective of the Olympic archers is to do what? It's not to win. Well, it might be to win a gold medal. That might be their purpose. But the objective, and I know this gets pedantic now, but the objective of an Olympic archer is to score most points, to score more points than your opponent, because then you beat them. But you score the most points by hitting the gold. Now, what do I mean by the gold? Well, I mean the center of the target. Now, many of us would refer to that as the bullseye. But anybody who knows anything about archery would say, oh, that's a complete no. You're not allowed to talk about the bullseye. You talk about the gold. Hitting the gold scores the archers most points. Hitting gold, the 10, I think they get 10 points in the Olympics for hitting the gold. Hitting the gold is what brings the archer value. And that's the hook. That's the trigger, because it's all about delivering value. And when we start talking about delivery of services, be that through service management or be that utilizing business relationship management, it's all about delivering value. So consider any business. It doesn't matter whether we're talking about an airline, whether we're talking about restaurants, whether we're talking about an innovative organization potentially, or whether we're talking about technology organizations, healthcare, power, groceries, hospitality, manufacturing. It doesn't really matter, because the focus of any business is to deliver value. Each business, though, has a different definition of what value is for them. It could be about maximizing profit. It could be about longevity of life. patient care, patient health. It could be about making sure that the logistics work in order to fill the store with groceries in order to make more money, but also to be able to feed the population. It could be about moving people from point A to point B. It could be about insurance. It could be about financial management. It doesn't matter what the subject matter is. Each business has its own definition of what is value to that organization. And I'll just throw it back to you and just say, for you, I'm not going to ask you to answer this question. It's a rhetorical question. But what is the value that your organization seeks? Because when we talk about the gold, the center of our target is the value. So knowing what the business considers as value, as I say, profit, longevity, logistics, efficiency, effectiveness, saving the planet, doesn't matter what the subject is, as long as that's the core value that everybody knows we're trying to achieve. So from that perspective, if we understand what the value is, we can then start to use some of the service management stuff. And service management talks about 4 dimensions. It talks about organizations and people. It talks about external partners and suppliers. It talks about information and technology. And it talks about the ways of working. And forgive me, but it talks about things like value streams and process. Now, you've got to bear in mind that I'm from the UK, so I'm going to probably slip at some point in time and refer to it as process. But process, you know what I'm talking about. Ways of working. So when we are talking about delivering the value, we need to have on board and take on board, how are we going to do that utilizing the people? How are we going to do that utilizing our third parties? Because no business survives these days without some use of third parties. Even if you happen to be Tesla or Apple, you are still reliant upon third parties for the raw materials. We talk about information and technology. Very, very difficult to come up with an organization today that doesn't use some form of information and technology to make them successful. So we not just focus on the people, we need to focus on the external suppliers and the partners. We need to focus on how we use the information and technology. And we also need to focus on how we actually work. What are our processes? What are our ethics, our beliefs, our ways of working? Ultimately, what's the culture of the organization? So ITIL gives us these 4 dimensions in which to work. But business relationship management says, yeah, we've got that. We've got that. We understand that, because from a business relationship management perspective, how do we engage with the people in the organizations? Because as a business relationship manager, I need to work with them. I need to think about their mindset, their value focus. And I need to use the right mindset. Am I going to be a connector and bring the right people on board? Am I going to be a cultivator and seek improvement on what we're doing already? Am I going to be an explorer and talk about new market spaces or new areas or new ways we can make money or preserve life or increase our efficiency or our effectiveness? Am I going to be utilize the investor mindset and get people to engage and start to get employed and used and think about how we could do things differently? And you know, any of you guys who do business relationship management as your business, you're not going to be just one of those, because you're going to be a whole range of those mindsets, depending on who the partner is, depending on what you're trying to achieve, depending on what the value is that the organization is trying to get. So we need to think about how we utilize and get the people in line, how we change their culture, how we evolve the culture, drive the relationships, drive the value. Yeah. And ultimately, we'll talk about building those relationships and satisfying the purpose. So any of you who've done the BRMP course will have seen this diagram of the cat looking into the mirror, looking glass, and seeing the line. I have to say, I think this is probably my most favorite diagram in any course that I've ever seen. Now, I do appreciate that I'm quite an expressive person and I like all the pictures and stuff. They work for me. If they don't work for you, that's great. However, I just want you to think about this. The cat needs to look into the looking glass and see the lion. Because if they don't, we are not going to help the business drive that value. We're not going to help. We're not going to have the right mindset. Do I need to be a connector? Do I need to be a cultivator? Do I need to be an explorer? Do I need to have that investor mindset for this particular partner? Because I need to be strong. I need to drive this forward. And to be honest, service management doesn't have that ability. They're reliant upon business relationship management to help them be that lion. Service management can deliver the services that the customers are seeking and help you deliver that and help you maximize the value. But they need the focal point. They need to know what they're trying to achieve. We all need to be singing from the same song sheet, but the song sheet is created by the business relationship management practice, by that discipline. We are trying to turn that organization into a relationship-centered organization, because then the connection and the cultivation and the exploration and the investment becomes easy. But you've got to be the lion. You've got to drive it forward. And if we go back to our Olympic structure, you can't just say, I want to win. You've got to have that drive. You've got to be that commitment. I always remember Sir Mo Farah, who, as you remember, probably know, is a British long distance runner, or was a British long distance runner. They always asked him, what's the secret of your success? And he always said, my team and my training. And they said, but more than that. And he said, I always run twice on Christmas Day. He said, because obviously UK Christmas Day is a really big day. I appreciate you have football games and stuff in the US on Christmas Day, but on Christmas Day in the UK, everything stops. But he went for 2 runs because he said, I always know that my competitors might go for 1 run on Christmas Day, but very few of them go for 2 runs. He was the lion. He is the lion. So if we take that idea of the mindset of the people, we can bring it back in and go, okay, every organization starts, small organizations, everyone starts as a small organization, doesn't matter. Yeah. And then you've got to have that lion idea. You've got to have that growth mindset. And then you can start to develop that relationship-centered organization and start to have the relationship management mindset. And then you can start to flourish and go off and use the investment element and the exploration and the cultivation and the connect. But your plant doesn't flourish without the business relationship discipline or the manager there. But you can't just focus on the people. Remember those 4 dimensions? You've got to think about, if we're going to build, or if we're going to grow a tree or allow a rose bush to flourish or whatever, we can't just stick it in the soil and hope for the best. We need to work with it. We need to think about pruning, the process in order to make it flourish. We need to talk about feeding. We need to talk about pruning. We need to talk about staking. We need the technology to dig the holes, to keep the soil fresh, to allow the water to penetrate. We need the external organizations to provide the bush in the first place. We can't do it on our own. So the business relationship management and the service management work together in order to make sure that the 4 dimensions are in place in order to help the business flourish. So when we're talking about our target again, we're talking about everyone is looking to think about the 4 dimensions and bring those 4 dimensions together. But we're also talking about moving, if you like, from where we are to where we want to be. We could argue that's about moving from now to new, driving value, building the partnerships, evolving a culture. Every organization is constantly asked to improve, to get better, to change. Look at your own organizations going through digital transformations now. So many organizations struggling to know, how much do we put on the cloud and how much do we keep on premise? How do we become more sustainable? How do we grow without how do we grow without the costs spiraling out of control? And that's where your BRM capability kicks in, isn't it? That's where we go, hang on a minute, let's define what the value is. Let's build the partnerships so that we can all sing that same song because we've got the same song sheet. Let's evolve a culture that allows everybody to flourish. And let's create that relationship-centered organization so that we can move from being order takers and start to get involved in the more strategic work. So the business relationship management element is so crucial. We talk about building those partnerships. We talk about utilizing the skills and the capabilities of others. Now, in our service management world, we have what we refer to as the operating model, where we design and build services, where we obtain and build, where we design and transition services, where we obtain and build for the new service, where we deliver and support the new service, all the way thinking about the strategy, what's the vision we're trying to achieve, and at the same time, making sure that we are creating value and we are continually improving. So the service value chain is where all of the hard work, or if you like, the true kind of business of delivering the service happens. But as a business relationship manager, we don't want to be doing that. We want to influence that. So we definitely want to be building the partnerships to allow that to happen. We definitely want to be involving the culture so that everybody knows what we're trying to achieve. But we're seeking to become more strategic. We're seeking to leave, if you like, the execution domain to the service management areas. So service management will look after that execution domain, utilizing the service value chain. So we're moving away from being that order taker, working in that execution domain, and starting to differentiate. So hang on a minute. Business relationship management can sit at that strategic domain, and service management can sit at that execution domain. We're all focused on the purpose. We're all focused on the people. We're all focused on saving the planet. So the triple bottom line, if you like, is still there. It doesn't matter whether we're in business relationship management or in service management, because they are supportive of one another. So effectively, we have this, and you've seen this, I'm sure, before, this diagram of the strategic domain and the execution domain leading to the satisfaction of purpose, or to satisfy purpose. But you'll notice it's not a circle with a horizontal line drawn through it, where effectively we have, well, business relationship management can look after the strategy and service management can look after the execution, because that's not going to work. We need the service management to have influence on the strategy. We need the business relationship management practice to understand the execution element. They don't need to get involved in the minutiae of it, which is why you've got like the yin-yang diagram, the teardrop, however you want to think about it, because we want, from a business relationship perspective, to understand, to make sure that we understand where the business is trying to go, what the value is that the business is trying to achieve. We can't satisfy purpose if we don't know what we're trying to hit. We don't know what the goal is in the target that we're trying to achieve. But we need the service management element with the service value chain to be able to deliver those services in order to satisfy purpose. So the two work simultaneously. They collaborate with each other to ensure that the value is achieved. And if we look at the continual improvement model in ITIL, I'm not going to work through this, but if we look at the continual improvement model, you'll see right at the top of the continual improvement model, we've got what's the vision, what's the business vision, what's the mission, what's the goals, what's the objectives. And that, if you like, is where business relationship management becomes, whatever word, so important. It's vital that we have that practice, that discipline, that team, that person. Whether you are a single business relationship manager or whether you've got a whole team of business relationship managers working within the organization as a discipline, understand what the vision is, understand the mission, the goals, and the objectives. And the BRMs are the best you can get that to happen, because they're the ones who know the partners. They're the ones that can communicate with the partners. They're the ones that can cultivate. They're the ones that can explore. They're the ones that can connect and get the right investment into new ideas, new concepts, new ways of working, whatever it happens to be. So the satisfy purpose relies upon the business relationship manager going from level 2, the order taker, right up through being that trusted advisor to be that strategic partner. The higher we can get up that levels, and you guys who have seen business relationship management professional courseware will have seen this numerous times. But I'm just trying to give you where it's really happening, because in reality, we need to get into that strategic domain in order to be able to facilitate great, efficient and effective services via service management. They work together. Yeah. We need to try and achieve that value. We need to maintain the culture. We need to understand how we work. So we need the process. We need the value streams. We need the information and the technology. But sitting above all of that, we need some control. So we need governance. We need to understand the regulatory regulations and the regulatory bodies we have to adhere to. We need to understand how we're going to achieve that. And that is where service management gives us the ITIL service value stream. Sorry, system, the ITIL service value system, because effectively it gives that structure within which the services are delivered. But we are continuing and continually looking to improve. So service management feeds into the service value system, utilizing the continual improvement model. Business relationship management inputs into the service value system with things like shared vision, relationship, character, performance. Haven't we seen this before? Isn't this relationship on a page? Isn't this the relationship strategy on a page that you've seen in your quality? Yeah, because if we have that relationship on the page, then we know what we can do and what we can't do and what we should do and how we should be doing it. So again, the business relationship management best practice and the service management best practice support one another, work together, collaborate. So effectively, in order to hit gold, we need both business relationship management and service management to be singing from the same song sheet, to be working together, to be supportive of one another. So silly diagram, but think about a hot air balloon. Service management is the basket. Business relationship management, the big overarching hot air balloon. Without the structure and the basket, your hot air balloon is useless. All it is a bit of flappy material with hot air in it. And how many times have you guys in real world been in a meeting where you thought, man, all they're doing is talking hot air. There's nothing structural here. It's just a lot of talk. So we have the balloon, but we also need to have the structure below. But again, having the basket, if we don't have the hot air balloon, the basket just sits on the floor. It doesn't go anywhere. We need the two. We need the lift of the business relationship management in order to help get service management off the ground. But we need the structure of service management to help the hot air balloon actually transport people or whatever it's transporting, to make it functionally work. The two together make it better. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, he's talking a load of rubbish here. Just garbage. Don't believe a word of it. Let me give you a real world. No, it sounds a bit weird, but Sha'Carri Richardson, sprinter, fantastic sprinter, did brilliant at the Paris Olympics. No question. Did a superb job. On her own, ran 100 meters, fantastic, silver medal. Well done. And I don't mean that in any way patronizing. Absolutely amazing. But give her a shared vision. Give her a culture of a team. Build the relationship with the team. In the relay, she got gold. On her own, she was all right. Got silver. Together with her colleagues, collaboratively, won gold. Now, I know you can put lots of other elements into that, but I hope where you see where I'm coming from. Business relationship management and service management can work on their own and survive on their own and have for many years. Put the two together and you've got gold. So we've talked a little bit abstract. Let's just jump into a bit of real stuff to start with. At this point. You'll have seen these diagrams before. Some of you will have seen these diagrams before. We've got the business relationship management, and there you can see the satisfy purpose capability elements sitting there with evolve culture, with the build partnerships, drive value, and we talk about the 3 Ps, the people, the planet, and the purpose. And then you've got the service value system on the right-hand side from service management. Well, traditionally, it was always seen that business relationship management was partner focused and that service management was provider focused. But in our modern world, in our technological digital world, they work together. Both have a strategic view, both seek value realization, both think about the people, they think about the purpose, they think about the planet. Both rely upon communication. As I say, from the sprinter, yeah. Both can survive on their own. But if we can take that BRM philosophy, if we can create that relationship-centered organization, if we could utilize the service management ITIL best practice, the global best practice for delivering services to customers, that's going to be our differentiator. That's going to take us from the silver to the gold. And just to push it even more, you'll have seen this before, the machine working through organism to the relationship-centered organization. You might think I'm obsessed with the Olympics. It's just a really good metaphor for this. In 1924, the Olympics and the gold medal Olympians relied upon talent. I'm going to jump forward and back a second. So in 1924, the winner of the 100 meters Olympics was a gentleman by the name of Harold Abrahams. You'll notice, any of you looked at a slide a minute ago, that when they went into the Olympic Village in 1924, for their dinner in the Olympic Village, they were offered beer or wine. Because in those days, it was all about the talent. And in fact, Harold Abrahams probably put his cigarette down before he actually ran the 100 meters. And he was running on ash in dodgy spikes. Certainly leather shoes with spikes. In 1980, the 100 meters was won by Alan Wells. Now, we've moved on in those 50 odd years, and you'll see by Alan Wells's physique that suddenly they're starting to use a bit of technology. He's going to the gym. He was still a part-time athlete. In fact, I believe he was a teacher in Scotland. But the realization was that actually talent alone wasn't any good. Oh, sorry, wasn't sufficient. Talent is absolutely vital, but you actually need the team supporting you as well. You need the service management element, if you like, as well, in order to achieve the value to win the 100 meters. This year, the 100 meters was won by Noah Lyles in an amazing 100 meters, probably the best 100 meters ever run. He has got immense talent, no question. However, he's also got a nutritionist, a coach, a management team. He's also running in the most up-to-date shoes. He's consuming food and gels and fluid that is designed to maximize his hydration, to maximize his carbohydrate output or whatever. I don't know enough about sport to be able to say stuff like this, but he needs the team around him in order to achieve the goal of winning, to get the value of having the gold medal and the fastest time. And when I talk about times, just to put this into perspective, Howard Abrahams won the 100 meters in 10.6 seconds. So when he was working as a machine, did the job, fantastic, 10.6 seconds. As we moved into the 1980s, into the organism with Alan Wells, he did it in 10.5 seconds. So he'd saved a second. When we work collaboratively with the technology, with the information, with the external partners and suppliers, with the value streams and the process of training, and have the right people in the right place, Noah Lyles won it in 9.8 seconds. So nearly a second knocked off in 100 years. Now, you might think that's not enough, but it's about building that team. So how does it really look? Now, that I appreciate this is a really horrible diagram, but the reason we put this in and the reason it's there is I want to reinforce to you that business relationship management and everything you might have seen if you've done BRM Essentials or if you've done the Business Relationship Management Professional, you'll have seen some of these diagrams. If you've done the ITIL Foundation, you'll have seen some of the other diagrams. What I want you to see is that when you put them together, they all support each other. You can't, for example, drive value if you haven't got the service value chain delivering it for you. Driving value enables you to do continual improvement. If you do continual improvement, you should satisfy the purpose, but you need the structure of the service value system to be able to achieve that, which helps you to evolve a culture of doing it better, faster, cheaper, which allows you to be more efficient and more effective in your service value chain. So it keeps going around and around. And at the center of that, we've got the 4 dimensions and we've got the building of the partnerships, because it's all about the people working together collaboratively, using the 3 other dimensions in order to communicate, to make the services so much better, they deliver the value. So it doesn't matter where you are in this cycle. There is no start, there is no finish, because it's about making us better. It's about delivering value to your organization, whatever that value is, whether that happens to be making money, whether that happens to be extending life, whether that happens to be the most efficient and effective manufacturing, whether that happens to be educating children, whether it happens to be selling fast food, whether it happens to be running a hotel. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The 2 best practices support one another and allow you to work collaboratively and achieve so much more than you would do if you just use one and not the other. So I'm going to stop for a second now, because we're at the end. You're probably thinking, oh, thanks for that. That's 40 minutes of my life I'm not going to get back. But I hope that I've just lit a fuse that makes you think, I've done business relationship management, but I've never really looked at service management properly. I've never thought about bringing ITIL into our organization. Or conversely, you might be sitting there thinking, I've heard of ITIL, but I didn't really know what it is. And I'm interested in business relationship management, but I've never done anything around it. There are loads of different qualifications within the ITIL framework. Everything really starts with the ITIL Foundation. And I'm not going to go through, I'm very happy to take questions after this event. The Institute, quite happy to hand out my email address. I'll answer any questions around service management that you want to ask. In a nutshell, everybody would benefit by doing the ITIL Foundation, in the same way as I'm sure Sam's about to tell you that everyone will benefit by doing the BRMP qualification. If you understand how to deliver services well, then that can be the differentiator in your business of being okay and flourishing. And the ITIL Foundation, it's not about just IT, it's about delivering services. And in reality, how many services these days are delivered that don't use technology and IT? But the ITIL Foundation would be the grounding for any of your organizations to deliver really great services to your customers. Or if you're just in receipt of services, makes you a very good customer because you understand how services could be delivered. And on that note, Sam, do you want us to talk us through the BRM career pathway? Because you're far more eloquent and better at doing it than I am.
No worries. Just as you said, I'm going to keep this short and sweet. If you do have any overarching questions about perhaps starting or continuing your BRM career, I did drop the info at BRM Institute should you have any questions, but really what's going to be extremely helpful as you try to develop yourself either as a leader or as a strategic partner, taking a BRM certification course really drive that career growth. If you're just interested in learning a little bit more about business relationship management, you can take BRM Fundamentals, which is a 1-day or sometimes a 2-day split into halves learning experience designed for professionals at all levels. And it's just a comprehensive understanding of what business relationship management is. It's a basic introduction to the frameworks and some of the models, processes, and tools. And if you're looking to, solidify your career or your role as a business relationship manager or strategic partner, you might consider the BRMP, the professional certification, which has become a highly sought after credential by hiring managers around the globe. And it indicates a thorough knowledge and understanding of how to connect relationships to results. So building off of a really strong foundation like ITIL and really understanding the intricacies of how your organization connects and how your team connects and the greater impact that that'll have. And as Paul said so many numerous times, that really is a yin and yang of having the core framework and then having, that people aspect and just melding them together to, make a more well-rounded individual. I don't have anything further. If you guys do have any further questions about certifications, whether it be ITIL or BRM, again, you're free to reach out to Paul and I either in chat, or he said he would drop his email, and you have the info out there. We are going to move it to Q&A. So I did see one question pop up. I need to go back just a little bit. So if ITIL helps with framework and BRM helps to stretch that framework, its growth, can you think of an instance, Paul, where a collaboration between the two helped you or a partner strategically grow?
That's a really good question. Thank you for that. Yes, is a straight answer. I used to work in the police service in the UK. And my job when I started in the police service was to be, my fancy title was I was a service support engineer. Service support, I wasn't a service support engineer, service support manager, my apologies. So I was a senior manager running the service support. Our job when I started was to provide services to police officers and support the police officers achieving their job. I then got involved with the Business Relationship Management Institute and how that works. And I started to look more at the BRM elements. And my question was, well, hang on a minute, what does the police officer on the street actually need? What do the chief officers actually want or need? What's the value they're seeking? So I started to ask these quite awkward questions about, oh, that's great. Yeah, we can provide those tablets, we can provide those laptops, we can provide that network connectivity. But what are they seeking? Well, they want to be able to do this. No. What are they actually seeking? What's the value you're trying to achieve with this? And by asking those questions, it was really interesting. And I'm not going to lie to you and say, oh, it happened overnight. It took about 8-9 months. I suddenly got invited to more senior meetings and more senior meetings and more senior meetings, until eventually I got invited to meetings with what we have here, a chief constable, the head of police, basically. And at one point, the chief constable in this particular police service said, so we're going to do this. I can't talk about exactly what, but we're going to do this, this, and this. Well, that's the plan. What do you think? What do you think, Paul? And I said, I think that's a very good idea, sir. And he said, Paul, are you saying you think that's a really good idea because you think it's a good idea? Or are you saying you think it's a really good idea because of all the stripes I've got on my shoulder? And I was able to say to him, sir, you greatly underestimate my arrogance. If I thought it was a rubbish idea, I'd have told you. But actually, I think it's a really good idea. Now, that sounds a bit big as me, and I don't mean it like that. But it was at that point I walked out of that meeting and I thought, I'm at that strategic partnership now, because they've asked me if I think it's a good idea before they've committed to doing it. And I wouldn't have got that without the business relationship management foundation of going in and talking to them and asking what's the value. I moved up the layers of the organization until eventually I was sitting at the top table. I could have just stayed in the execution domain and delivered the services, but that's not me. I'm very, very career driven, and I'm very passionate about delivering good service, and I wanted to get it right and up to the top. And that's exactly so. In answer to your question, yes, I've done it, because the more you get involved in the business relationship management of the organization, the more strategic you become. But I never lost sight of the fact that my title was service support manager. So my job was to make sure that the execution domain was delivered. So I was working as a strategic partner, but also ensuring that the execution domain was being delivered. Now, it was great. I was lucky. I managed to, recruit other people to actually pick up the day-to-day work, which allowed me to be the BRM for that organization. But in essence, that's about moving through, utilizing the best practice of business relationship management in order to move myself and the IT department from being purely executional to being strategically focused.
That was a wonderful answer. Next questions are a little bit more just directional. So where do we start with ITIL? If someone's looking to look into ITIL training, where should they begin?
QA. And next question. No. Genuinely, look at the ITIL Foundation. There are overviews and you can see overviews, but genuinely, I would look at the ITIL Foundation, because I know it sounds really stupid, but it is the foundation. And then you can decide whether you want to go into a more strategic leadership role. If we go back to, I won't talk you through this, but if we go back to this, you can see that there are three, if you like, columns, three areas. You start at the foundation. The foundation is the baseline, and then you can decide whether you want to go into the leadership courses, whether you want to go into the management, and that's team management and kind of the execution stuff, or whether you want to get really into the nuts and bolts. It also, as you will see on the left hand side there, or kind of towards the left hand side of the slide, there's sustainability and setting sustainability strategies. There's about utilization of cloud services. There's about working with the service desk and making the service desk better. But yeah, I would suggest go to a training company, and of course I promote QA. Why wouldn't I? That's my business. But in reality, any training company that delivers service management, start with the foundation. That's your set point, and then you can move forward.
Perfect. Another question we have is, what is the difference between the ITIL 4 specialist and the business relationship management, the BRMP?
Oh, okay. That's another excellent question. I'm probably going to say something quite controversial now. I would always, inverted commas, recommend that people do the BRMP before or instead of the business relationship management for ITIL. Now, hold that thought, because obviously my business is ITIL. My business is service management. So let's put it into reality. If you are a business relationship manager if you want to be a business relationship manager, if you're interested in delivering or bringing business relationship management into your organization, then the BRMP is yours every single day of the week. If, however, you are a manager in an organization that has business relationship managers, and quite frankly, you just want to know what they do, then do the ITIL Business Relationship Management. Because the ITIL Business Relationship Management course will just give you an overview of what business relationship management does. The BRMP gives you the best practice and the tools and the relationship-centered organization focus and the 3 Ps, and it gives you the tools to do the job.
Awesome. We have another question. Paul, what's your recommendation for driving this concept with the CIO, who is ultimately responsible for both areas, who needs to be on board to make the model successful?
I'd probably start to ask some slightly difficult questions. And I'd probably, if I'm honest, use projects to be my lever into that. So if there is like a project, I don't know whether you have like a change advisory meeting or a project initiation meeting or a portfolio management meeting, somewhere where projects are authorized, I'd probably be trying to get myself invited to one of those, and I'd just be starting to ask not awkward questions, but questions like, I really, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's go to ServiceNow as a ticketing tool. That's a really I think it's, and then you say, what's the value we're getting from that? Why are we going to go to that one rather than sit with our existing ticketing tool? Oh, okay. And just keep asking about what's the value, because you know and I know that there are many people who go to conferences and seminars and whatever and come back and say, hey, this is the new fancy whizzy tool. A great example. Everybody's going to the cloud. Yeah, but what's the value of going to cloud for us? Because we're providing child services in the state of Oregon or whatever it happens to be. What's the value of us going to cloud at this point? Because it's probably not going to save money. Will it help us by making us more secure? Might be, but so I would ask, I'd start to drip more strategic questions rather than being sucked into the minutiae of dealing with incidents and problems and changes and requests. I'd start asking a little bit more questions around value, because that just moves you up from being that order taker. It might only move you to being the service provider to begin with, but then you start to talk as a more even level, and then you can walk away thinking, okay, I think I'm probably now a trusted advisor. My goal is to get to strategic partner, but let's just consolidate it as trusted advisor to start with.
All right, awesome. I don't see any hands raised, and I don't see any more questions. So with that, I have no further questions. I don't know if there's any final thoughts, things, Paul, you would like to say, parting words of wisdom. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Oh, it was very brief, very brief. I saw one hand, but I think it was maybe a. Oh, 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 okay.
I don't have any words of wisdom. Only to say, guys, thank you. I appreciate that we're kind of 10 minutes over where we should have been. So thank you so much for giving up an hour of your time to listen to this boring old bloke from the UK witter on. It's been a real joy and a real pleasure, and I hope you've gained something from it. Thanks you very much indeed. And I hope to see you in a service management or a business relationship management course very, very soon.
All right. Thank you, Paul.